Welcome back to Shoot the Ones podcast, brought to you in part by Local Liquids, premier vape shop located in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, specializing in e-liquids, devices, and coils. Check out www.local-liquids.com for more info. And now we'll get right into episode 16 with your Ukrainian hosts with the most. I am Dima.
And I'm Jenya. That's right, Dima. Check out Local Liquids. On episode 16, we're going to talk about Bellator 179, McDonald versus Paul Daly, Invicta 23, Nedzvich versus Porto. We'll also go over some of this week's news and preview UFC 109.
Check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, and other platforms where podcasts can be found.
Dima, on Friday we had Bellator 179, McDonald versus Daly.
Yeah, that was a pretty good event for Bellator. They went over to London, and they had a lot to showcase.
Yeah, good main card. Five featured bouts. Let's start from the bottom. We had Baby Slice come in and defeat DJ Griffin in his professional debut by strikes.
Yeah, it was a pretty short fight there. You know, we saw Kevin Ferguson Jr. come out and push the pace of the fight. He plodded forward and continued throwing punches. Eventually, one of those punches, I believe it was an uppercut, landed on DJ, and ultimately it led to the stoppage there.
That's right. I don't have a whole lot to add on this fight besides this was exactly 1 year later at the same arena as Kimbo Slice Jr. Is that what he goes by?
Baby Slice.
Baby Slice, that's right. Baby Slice lost his Bellator debut, rather.
His professional debut, too, so this would be his first professional win.
Yeah, so congratulations to him, and he's with Antonio McKee and those guys, right?
I'm not sure.
With that fight camp. But good for him. Congratulations to Baby Slice. Next up, we had Alex Lahore versus Dan Edwards, where Lahore took it by TKO strikes.
I was unable to catch this fight. Can you add anything to it?
Yeah, I was in and out on this fight myself. I do know Alex Lahore, and I'm pretty positive I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's a big prospect out of France, and he's a pretty violent guy with good all-around skills, you know, and he was able to display that against Dan Edwards. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the TKO strikes happen from like in guard position. So he's got a pretty good ground and pound game too.
Interesting. In the next fight, heavyweight division, Czech Congo defeated Augusto Sakai via split decision.
Yeah, the only reason it was a split decision is because...
Oh, your favorite judge.
God, why am I forgetting his name now?
D'Amato?
Yep, Sal. Better call Sal. It was Sal D'Amato was the only one that had Augusto winning, and he was probably the only one in the world that had Augusto winning that fight. It was pretty much like we predicted here. We were pretty spot on with our predictions for this fight card, as we have been on every Bellator fight card so far that we've been doing this podcast.
Yeah, you were even spot on with the next fight here in the light heavyweight division, where we saw Linton Vassell kind of have his way with Liam McGreary.
Yeah, Dima, the difference in this fight was Vassell had, and most of the guys Liam McGreary is going to face at light heavyweight, they're going to have a big wrestling advantage versus Liam McGreary. And typically it hasn't hurt Liam too much in the past because Liam's a jiu-jitsu guy. But in this one, it hurt him because Linton Vassell is also good at jiu-jitsu, and he ended up submitting him with the arm triangle choke in the third round. In what I didn't really think was a close fight.
You are correct. I do believe Liam had some shining moments in the very beginning
yeah.
where he was able to connect. But like you said, the wrestling ultimately was kind of the weakness point there that Vassell was able to take advantage of.
And he was down 2 rounds, probably losing the third round as well, if we're being fair.
Yeah.
Next up, we had the return of the Red King, Dima.
Yeah, finally.
Versus Paul Semtex Daly. He won by submission, rear naked choke, and was pretty much a flawless performance, Dima.
Yeah, real smart performance from Rory McDonald in his Bellator debut. He came out there and, played real smart. Like I just said, he took the fight to the ground. He didn't play, he didn't want any of the stand up, kind of didn't want to play with fire, which is smart.
Yeah, you make excellent points. Basically, to sum up what you were saying, Rory basically fought Paul Simtex Daly how you're supposed to fight Paul Simtex Daly. A lot of people will fight him into their strengths, and this is something I've always hated about MMA. So some guys want to prove points,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't get if a guy isn't good on the ground, but he's really good standing. Why not take advantage of that? There's no point to prove.
Especially when you're like Rory McDonald, and Rory was really good on the ground here. He did not give like an inch of space to Semtex to move, and he kept the pressure on throughout both rounds, and ultimately got the submission there in the end.
Yeah, he was really on his A game. It looked like what it was supposed to look like, pretty much. A top 5 guy go against a borderline 20 ranked guy. And that's exactly how the fight played out.
Yeah, I think Bellator made a really excellent acquisition in Rory McDonald, who is looking like a future champion for their welterweight division. He looked phenomenal, but he did make some ridiculous callouts there towards the end. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll get to what I think about that. But speaking of becoming the champion, they did announce that he will fight the winner of Lima versus Larkin, which seems to be a good perspective fight rather, Dima. You asked me about the weird call-outs to Fedor and Vanderlei, where he said that people have been clamoring for these fights, and me and you, we've followed MMA our whole lives. We're in MMA communities. We have a bunch of friends that love MMA. Never have I heard Rory. Oh my God, I can't wait to see Rory fight Fedor. I can't wait to see Rory fight Vanderlei. I think this was created in Rory's head.
Yeah, this was a conversation we had like pre-podcast, and we kind of giggled at that. I don't want to take anything away from Rory, but I don't think we ever discussed Rory fighting like Fedor or Vanderlei at any point. But Larkin fight would be interesting. Lima fight would be interesting.
Yeah, and not saying that he won't beat Vanderlei or even possibly Fedor, but that's a weird fight to begin with. I don't even want to try to analyze that. But yeah, I'd rather see Rory fight 170 guys. He looked like a little bit slimmer version than he came in last UFC fight that he lost. Who did he fight? He fought the kickboxer, the one that just lost to T Wood, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah, he fought Stephen Wonderboy in his last fight in the UFC, and he looked a lot more beefed up. So maybe he's doing more cardio training. But it seemed he seemed to have really good speed and seemed like a legit top 5, maybe even top 3 guy still in there.
Yeah, he looked really good. So all in all, it was a really solid event for Bellator going overseas. The undercard was pretty exciting too. It was like lots of submissions and finishes, but just not very well known fighters. So I don't have a lot to add other than maybe worth checking out if you're a hardcore MMA fan, because there, like I said, there was some crazy shit as far as finishes there on the undercard.
Excellent, Dima. And last night we had Invicta 23, Nedzvej versus Porto.
Yeah, Invicta put on a pretty solid card as well.
I enjoyed it. I'm not going to get too far into analyzing this card. There were some really good fights. I was really impressed with Roxanne Modafferi, though.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to talk about mainly. She came in so lighthearted and smiling like she always does. She wore like a Power Ranger suit to the weigh-ins, and her opponent he wasn't having any of it. But Roxanne was able to come in there, and she really looked impressive throughout the whole fight, and kind of ended things very violently too, with elbows, with some mean ground and pound.
Yeah, she definitely stole the show, Dima. And she had a really tough opponent in front of her, Sarah D'Amelio, and she fits the moniker of the monster, that's her nickname. She's a real scary opponent that's got finishes over good fighters. And Roxanne, to her credit, she came out there and she got hurt within the first 10 seconds of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And she managed to turn around the momentum and she's really improved her striking. Her striking used to be like, I mean, she's a real pioneer. Like if they ever have a women's Hall of Fame, she probably needs to be included, you know.
For sure.
But you know, at the beginning of her career, before she joined Syndicate, before she started working with them and went to Tough, you know, her striking was kind of like Cindy Dudois. It was rough.
Yeah, definitely not a strong suit.
And in this fight, you know, she gets dropped and she comes up, she gets up and comes forward with that forward aggression. And she managed to drop Sarah D'Amelio twice in that fight before finally unloading a vicious elbow that the ref saw something right away and stepped in there. And there was a lot of blood.
Yeah, she cut her up pretty bad. But yeah, you know, she was able to show her veteran savvy. And like you said, her improved striking, you know, she goes to show that she's still learning and definitely holds her own and her place in the division.
Also with impressive victories, Nedzvich scored a unanimous decision in the main event, which in a fight I thought could have gone either way. I could see Vanessa Porto win. I mean, that was a real back and forth fight. What the Polish girl has for her, and she's 125 pounds, and you know she looks like she's going to be a title challenger. What she's got going for her, Dima, is she's really good at throwing a strike and coming in there with the takedown kind of Chael Sonnen style. And that really worked for her against Vanessa Porto a couple times. Once or twice she did come in sloppy with the takedown, trying to utilize that same technique. That's kind of a risky take with that, you know, punch takedown tactic that she uses, but it worked really well for her. And she's got some good ground skills. Andrea Lee, you know, KGB got a split decision win, which probably should have been unanimous. She looked really good. I enjoyed the card overall. What I like about Invicta, Dima, and I'm sure I've said this on prior podcasts, I really appreciate their pace. You know, they don't they go next fight, and they don't sit and bullshit around. You know, they might do a quick octagon interview, and then they're on to the next one.
So all in all, it was a really solid event for Invicta and Bellator. UFC didn't have an event, but those two certainly filled in the gap. If you're an MMA fan, certainly worth checking out. We are going to be bringing an interview next after this short break. We are really excited to have Ricky the Sniper Rainey come on the show. And yeah, guys, we are going to be back after a short break.
Shoot the Ones listeners, thanks for joining us again this week. If you'd like to advertise your product or brand to our fans, we can be reached at shoottheonespodcast@gmail.com. That's shoot the 1s podcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on SoundCloud, subscribe to our show on YouTube, and like and share us on Facebook. Thanks again for listening and your loyal support. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Shoot the Ones listeners, we have Ricky the Sniper Rainey with us, Bellator fighter, 4-2 Bellator, 12-4 career professional record. One of the nicest, and a personal friend of mine, one of the nicest guys I know, a real cool guy I went to Western Carolina University with. Nice to have you on the show, Ricky.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
I always love to hear why fighters chose MMA. In your particular case, I know we've discussed this before, but just to let the listeners kind of know a little bit about more about you, what brought you to MMA? What made you decide professional fighting was for you?
Really, I wasn't sure I was gonna be a professional fighter, but I know I started Taekwondo when I was about 12 years old, and just basically just it just carried me through life. I didn't really stay in there long, but it carried me through life and through athletics. And after I finished playing college football, I went into a boring bank job, and then all of a sudden MMA popped up, and I was like, I started training this because I was working collections and getting cussed out all the time. I figured, hey, I should let this energy out in a productive way other than over the phone yelling at someone. So I started training MMA for about a year, and then decided to try to have an amateur fight. After that, I had another amateur fight, and later on ended up with 5 amateur fights, and then I went pro. It just happened to fall into place since I was already disciplined in martial arts. I just decided to go ahead and give this a try, and I didn't get my ass whooped, so I was like, hey, maybe I'll keep trying this until, I get my ass whooped too bad. But I didn't.
Ricky, Dimitri here. How you doing?
No good, Dimitri.
Hey, did you do any martial arts growing up as a kid?
Yeah, I did Taekwondo for a few years, and yeah, that's about it. I didn't stay there long, but I did Taekwondo, learned a little bit. Then I basically just did everything from home. Watching Bruce Lee movies, Van Damme, all that stuff. Taught myself splits, and I was pretty much a nerd. I didn't really go outside much. I just stayed around the house and did martial arts and punched doors and stuff.
Right on,
So,
right on. And I can
yeah.
somewhat relate.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were roughly 225-pound football player for Western Carolina when you were played outside linebacker.
Oh, I wish I was, man. I was like 115 at the most. I always tried to
215.
gain weight, but I couldn't.
215. I think you said 115, man. You'd be like straw weight like Joanna.
I know, right? Would be a good position to play for sure.
But yeah, the thing I remember though, the reason I bring that up, the thing I remember about you in college was you were always a kind of unique athlete. I remember that you ran drills with the cornerbacks and the wide receivers when they would run sprints, and when you went lifting, you'd go with the with the tackles, and the defensive linemen. What I know, you ended up fighting at welterweight. And what kind of how did you get to that process? How did you decide welterweight was right for you? I remember when I watched all your amateur fights because they were here in North Carolina, and me, Steve, and the gang, we were able to go watch them. And I mean, to put it lightly, you were kind of changing people's career choices. A lot of people would get hit by you, and I mean, you were annihilating people in the amateurs if we're being fair. What kind of made? But I remember you also didn't fight at 170. How did you choose to go to 170, and how's it been for you?
Well, I wasn't brought up no idiot, so I started out fighting 205, but I didn't even cut any weight for that. I was like 203. And that's about the same time it just began. So people weren't really cutting weight. They were just sort of just fighting at the weight they were at. Because like Rashad Evans, he started out fighting 205.
Yeah, I
Now
remember
he's
that one.
smaller and smaller. Machida, all of them got smaller. So I started off at 205, and everything was fine. I didn't have no real problems. But then I realized that man, there's some big ass 205ers out here. So then I started with 185. I think my last 2 amateur fights, and then once I hit the big leagues, by that time everybody was cutting weight, like insanely amounts of weight. That's why they put all these rules in about hydration and all that stuff. But people were cutting like 30 to 40 pounds, man, just to make a weight, and then hydrate back up to double that weight. It's like, so I decided, like, if I wanted to be successful, I should probably cut weight to keep up with everybody else. So, luckily I was able to do that the healthy way. I didn't kill myself doing it because I wasn't really basically just cut back to about high school weight. Nah, probably lower than that. I'm lying. I was cut lower than that.
Definitely about as ripped as it gets at 170, man. A problem for anybody in that weight class.
Yeah, body fat wasn't existing once I hit about 171. So, luckily I didn't have to cut out too much muscle, or I didn't have any water though. That's for sure. But as I got further on in my career, weight cuts wasn't even that hard really. I didn't feel like I was struggling with them at all. I was usually on weight after the first weight cut these last few fights that I had. So, I basically just, it's almost like a little cheating thing that MMA has going on, where everybody cut all this weight. So for me to keep up with the cheaters, I guess I had to cheat myself, So we just all cheating.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't really look at it that way, because you're fighting some huge guys, especially if you're even at 185, like Luke Rockhold, and those guys are huge, man. They're way bigger than you are, height wise and reach wise. So I get it. I get what you're saying. Did you hear about what the California Commission's doing now with the weight cuts?
Yeah.
Oh, you might want to look into that, especially if you fight in California. They came out this week. They got like a 10-point system. Do you remember any of the points? We were just looking at it.
No, I don't remember a point by point, but they're going to fine people more for missing the weight. They're going to have like regular check-ins to make sure.
They can check you out 30 days and 10 days before you fight.
Yeah, to make sure you don't drastically lose weight and put yourself in danger, essentially.
The winner could potentially lose 40% now of their purse instead of 20%. You might want to look into this, because you might, like I said, you might end up fighting there. And
yeah, I done fought in California, like with Bellator. I done fought there 4 times.
Oh,
yeah, I don't have no weight problems, so it's all good. I don't.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm like walking around like
a nicer purse next time.
Hey, that's okay. First person I fought, he freaking, yeah, he didn't make weight. He gave me like a lot of his purse. He was like 4 pounds off, 4 or 5, something crazy.
What fight
I got
was
a lot
this?
of his money. That was the Andy Murad, the first fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, boy, he came in overweight.
It didn't help him.
Good bit. Yeah, I didn't help him. But it's like, y'all had a problem with weight cuts. Like, I'm walking around, I ain't even got nothing scheduled in the books, and I'm walking around like 192. I used to start cutting weight at like 193. After a practice, I'd be 188. So I'm usually don't walk around like this, but I just made it a lifestyle. So now I just walk around lighter than indulging in ice creams and all these snacks, make myself a diabetic, and then try to cut all the weight.
Hey man, thanks for being so open about the weight cuts and stuff, man. You rarely get that from an MMA fighter, but we really appreciate you being so open with us. Moving forward, you can skip this question if you'd like, because I know it might hit a nerve, but kind of going over your record, man. You have a real impressive record, but I know you fought two famous siblings. And in both those fights, if I could say my point of view, I felt like, you went to decision, and I'm like, oh, Ricky won that fight hands down. No doubt about it. And 75 to 90% of the arenas agreed with me. Probably even more than that, to be honest. I'm probably being generous. It's probably like 98% of the arena.
They teammates too,
won.
yeah.
So I guess the question being, did you want to talk about that, or the politics of the MMA game at all? Because I feel like you clearly won those fights.
Yeah, that's fine. We talk about it. Ain't no sweat on me.
I hear you. Some fighters don't prefer talking about losses too much, but I do feel like those should be wins.
Yeah, that's why it don't bother me. It don't bother me at all. Yeah, but I guess just like boxing, man, it's turned into a popularity sport, and they all about building the people that they think is gonna bring them money. It's not really about the better fighter, especially when it comes to judging. It's basically a popularity sport, and it sort of sucks that way because it's fighting. And if you beat somebody's ass, it's pretty much clear that you beat their ass. Oh, he won. If you took the faces off, if you blurred out the faces and the names, and looked at 2 bodies fight each other, you'd be like, oh, that body won. I don't know whose body it is, but that one won.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't do that now, so it's just They tend to go with the popularity vote, man. It's almost like, I guess it's almost like any sport, man. If you just watch it from the outside and one of them has more prestige. If like Florida, if like the Florida Gators or some high prestige 5-star team played Western Carolina, you know,
We get
you
paid for
probably
it.
much gonna be like, yeah, Florida State gonna win. you know,
That's right.
it ain't like you gonna sit there and try to, luckily they use points and put them on the board for that type of stuff, but you can't really see the points and you can't take into account the judges' favoritism going into stuff, especially in hometowns and stuff like that. And the crowd, somehow the crowd plays a part now these days. Like, I could punch them in the head, they won't say nothing, but then you kick me in the leg barely, and ooh, wow, like that plays a part for some reason to the judges instead of them remembering the point system, which most of them don't probably even know the point system. So, it's just something I got to deal with. And people tell me forever, oh, you won that fight. You don't got to tell me. I know. I mean, I was in there, so it's no real anger to me. It seems like my friends and somewhat fans seem to be more upset about it than me. I was upset at first, but what you gonna do, man? You can do. So it's popularity. That's what it's coming to now. Everything's popularity.
I hear you. Ricky,
Uh,
you've been fighting for Bellator for a while, and I wanted to ask you, how is fighting for Scott Coker differ from working with Bjorn Ribney?
um, oh yeah, I have fought for both of them. Um, let me think about this.
Yeah,
Mm,
you might have to pick your words wisely with this one.
oh no, I ain't worried about it, man. I ain't worried. I mean, they're
I mean, a
both.
lot of people are saying positive things about Scott, and he's bringing in some good changes to Bellator.
He's
And
popular and he's bringing a new regime. He's doing well
yeah,
for himself.
I guess I
Yeah,
wanted to get your take on that.
I mean, he has a lot of experience coming to the game from Strike Force to man. Well, what else he got? I think he's
Elite
doing
XC was his
Risen up
project too,
in
wasn't it?
Japan, and he knows what brings the crowd in, and I fought for both of them. I think they're both good guys. I talked to the previous one a little bit more, but hey, things change, man, and they feel like they need to bring in some bigger guns, and you can't. What you gonna do? It's bigger guns, and hey, he got the experience, so I haven't got to talk to him personally, but he seems like a good guy, and he bringing the best to the table. So if he's the best, if he wants the best, he's gonna bring it out of people, and I feel like he's making Bellator climb the ladder real fast. In the ways of you know popularity and getting exposure to the people they want exposed. Which will bring in the crowd. Freaking Tito and them. They're sort of
A million views.
older people. They're older, well older, but hey, they bring in a big crowd. So what you gonna do? They're
They
gonna
hit a
keep
million
bringing
views on
in,
that one.
huh?
They hit a million views on that one.
Yeah, 'cause
A new I guess high for Bellator was that card actually. That was their all-time high.
yeah, man. I mean, so they go constantly bring in the most popular people, and the great thing about him is that he's actually given, after because UFC sort of became sort of the highest. They got to throw people out of there because they got so many people, but these people still got a good chance by going maybe to get picked up by Bellator. Bellator might not pick them up because they got a lot of talent too, but it's still on the same quality, a high level. You can take somebody to Bellator to UFC to win, just like what's his name did, won the belt. What's his name?
Um,
Phil
Eddie
Davis.
Alvarez.
Eddie Alvarez. Yeah, he was in Bellator. He went over there and won the belt.
Yep.
People can go to UFC and win the belt. It's just how it goes, man. I mean, it's talent. The talent pool is not too much higher in any organization. So, it's just he's just
So you say it's
Grover
about
doing his thing. He
opportunity.
know what he's doing, and he continue to grow it. So that's basically all I got for that.
Mhm.
Right on. And speaking of UFC and their welterweight division, how do you perceive the current state of welterweight, kind of as far as the highest level goes? You know, we kind of saw the Maya and Masvidal fight just recently, and the word on the street is the Woodley fight is up next.
Oh,
Ooh,
I know
boy.
the answer to this, but I want to hear
Yeah,
it.
yeah, bro. I mean, I made my career on people that think they're gonna take me down and beat me up. So, hey, I'm not even a high level wrestler. So, I think, I think Maya, everybody, like Maya's got a chance, but everybody got a chance in the fight. But his only option is to take down Woodley and beat him up. But Woodley, right hand and left hand, and all this extra stuff he got, I think he gonna murder. I think he's gonna absolutely murder him. But
That's a good point.
what do I know?
Woodley would be tougher to take down as well. You know, he's shorter.
Exactly. I know. I'm like,
Woodley's
and
way
if
too
Willie know how good his jits is, he ain't gonna be like, hey, let me be a stupid dumbass and shoot in on this guy and take him down. Why? That's something that he need to do to Wonder Boy, because Wonder Boy's kicks and hands of fury, yeah, you might want to take him down. But it's a style thing, man. Styles make fights, and this is a bad fight for not Woodley, but it's a bad fight.
Cool, man. We got
For
a early prediction here.
Yeah, that's a
oh
point. That's a point we hit often on this podcast about what styles make fights. Man, people try MMA math, and that stuff doesn't work very well. But when you do match guys up stylistically, you can kind of try to figure. I mean, it's a fight still. But
yeah,
moving forward, have you watched any of this Ultimate Fighter season?
man. After my class, I teach. I go up here to the give me some wings, and I see a little bit of it and just sort of laugh. I see a little bit. I don't really watch a lot of it,
That's
but
what.
you
That's
know,
what. I just wanted to kind of. I wanted to tell you a little bit that the guys whose asses you've kicked have been having great success on that show, which I thought you'd find interesting. And I didn't know if you knew that or not. But yeah, the two
yeah,
guys.
yeah. I watched the first fight Gilbert had. I'm like, that dude was on mitts talking about running a combo, and he was coming forward. I'm like, oh, Gilbert gonna slam him on his head and beat him up, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, at the end of the day, man, he a vet,
Mhm.
and it's funny that I had to fight a vet on the freaking undercard. But we ain't gonna get on that. We ain't
Yeah,
gonna get on that.
that's a
You
very good
know,
point, man.
very good point. When
UFC vet, who they're trying to get back in there. And
yeah.
Diego Lima won last week, who you you kind of kicked his ass too, if we're being fair.
Yeah, I
You
made a little
just didn't
joke on
raise your hand
Facebook
enough.
like, hey, I wonder if they're roommates with each other and telling each other that Ricky beat. Hey, we both got something in common. Ricky beat us up.
That's
Yeah,
true, man.
I mean, it's whatever. It
And
just shows, it helped me out. Good job, guys. Good
yeah,
job.
that's true. You kind of do want your opponents to have success, especially if you beat them up and you did a good job against them. The more success, the
Yeah,
better for you, right?
yeah, exactly. So, and people can't deny that I did that with them and they having their success. So, they got back in that house. They doing what they got to do. I'm not really angry about it because, other than that stupid decision they did back in the day, but, you know, I did what I did. They doing what they doing. Keep making me look better. Good job.
I hear that. Is the Ultimate Fighter, like, if they ever gave you an invite, is that something you'd decline, you think, or would you be open to the idea of it?
Mm, idea of
Living
being
in the house?
in a house with a bunch of brutes, dumbasses,
Yeah.
can't watch TV, can't talk to my family. Nah, I'm good. I'm sure I can go work at some grocery store and be
Do some
happier
work
than going
again.
in that place and trying to look tough for a TV show. Nah, I don't want. If I can't get in there by just beating up people naturally, then I ain't want it. It's all good. I thought about that before because they was always having offers for people to come on the shows and stuff. They're like, oh, you should do that. Yeah, some people should go to prison, but they don't.
That's a great response, Ricky.
You're wild, man.
Speaking of beating people up, I know you might not necessarily be allowed to talk about anything that's in negotiations currently, but who would you like to fight in your division?
I don't know. Who's in my division that I haven't requested already?
It's pretty much wide open. You'd fight anybody.
I mean, yeah, I fight whatever I have to make it to the top. But apparently, I'm just trying to get some exposure, man. So it just seems like I have to. I don't know, bro. I'm just trying to build myself up. So I don't really request fights. I don't really request to fight anybody because, at the end of the day, I just fight whoever I have to. So I'm not really a junk talker or nothing like that. So I don't put things on blast. But if I gotta fight them, I'll fight them.
I think your skills should get recognized. I mean, you are going in there and winning these fights.
Yeah, what, I don't know what I gotta do, bro. I don't know. Like I said, Gilbert's winning on the UFC show, and we couldn't even get on the main card. So, what you want me to say? I don't know what else to do.
I appreciate the honesty, man.
Well, Ricky, we'll certainly advocate for you, and hopefully you get the big name, big money fight that you rightfully so deserve.
Yeah, either way, the money ain't gonna go up regardless of who I fight. If it's Timmy the Third or the world champion, it don't matter because I'm setting contract. No matter what it is, it's just a contract, So hopefully get something to give me some good exposure. Let me turn out and show my skill level, and then hey, that guy's pretty good. Oh, thanks. I done fought for him 6 times. I'm glad you see it. So,
good point. Speaking of other fighters, is there anybody that you kind of model your game around? I noticed, like, my personal opinion is watching you fight it's very similar to watching somebody like Anderson Silva strike a little bit. Is there any specific fighters you kind of admired before you got into MMA and that you still model your game around?
Let's see. It really all depends. I sort of changed my style a lot. I got a few stances that I changed to. It started off with Anderson Silva until I tried to be Anderson Silva and got knocked out. Oh, that one time that happened.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, we remember.
I think you kind of needed that to grow, though, man. Become the fighter you are today.
Oh, definitely. Every time I lose, man, I grow from the fight. So, I sort of use him as a model, but not get punched in the face anymore. That's a great idea.
It's a good strategy.
And, yeah, I got a few stances that I use because I did taekwondo and stuff. So I realized that after training with Wonder Boy and fighting people that's karate style, I realized the karate style is a very difficult style to deal with. But it depends on who you're fighting because that stance is not going to work when you're going against a wrestler. So depending on the type of style that I'm fighting, if it's a striking person, karate is a very good one to get out of the way. So I incorporate that in a boxing stance that I use. It's not a bladed stance because karate is sort of bladed, but I do boxing and karate mix in between and tend to go between the two. And I got knees and elbows from the Muay Thai. So I really just making my own style. And usually what works best against me, I'm like, oh, that worked on me. Oh, I'm using that because, I'm a good fighter. I know this. So if it can work on me, that shit must be legit. And so I sort of molded into my game. And it's how it makes me a better fighter. So each time that I lost, I always got better because I'm like, hey, that shit worked. So I'm going to start using that a little bit more. And, I always had the karate style in my blood, but I came from a boxing background with your hands on your head, come forward, a little bit of head movement. But, yeah, as I got better, as I got more experience, I just sort of put my hands down a little bit more. The closer you get to the opponent, the more you put your hands up. But if I'm at karate stance or in distance, I can have my hands wherever. Allow me to move my head more. So, I just evolved as I went because if you don't evolve, you're just gonna continue to get smashed. So if I'm not evolving, I'm just gonna stop fighting. So I just keep evolving. That's how I go. I ain't really no real model, but guess you could say then, if we were modeling people, it'd probably be Anderson Silva, Machida, and some boxer. My favorite boxer was Hearns. So put all those three together and make it work.
That's a good answer. I feel like we're coming to know Ricky Rainey as a fighter, but I wanted to know Ricky Rainey a little bit more as a person. I want to ask you, like, what kind of music do you like to listen to? What kind of food you like to eat? And I know you keep it strict, and maybe like what's some other things you like to do other than MMA?
Oh, my food ain't that strict. Nah, it's all right. I was just a little strict. But let's see. Music, man, I listen to everything but country. Like everything. I know a few country songs. Don't get me wrong. I know some line dances, and stuff. I like the white girls, so I gotta reel them in with the moves I know. But yeah, it's music wise, I like Godsmack, Metallica, freaking of course hip hop, J. Cole, Talib. I like real hip hop people that talk about real stuff.
Nice.
That, I'm old school, bro. I don't listen to I hear the raindrops and drop tops, but they ain't talking about shit. So, it's
Yeah,
okay.
man, I'm glad to hear. I'm a fan of Talib myself. Like I got Quality back in 2000 when I first came to the States, like back in '99, and that was like one of the introductory albums for me to hip hop. So that was pretty instrumental to making me a fan of hip hop.
Yeah, he actually got a song called Instrumental too. But yeah, he actually got some concert. He got a concert coming out here for like $25. I'm definitely going to that. So but there's some real rappers. I like real rappers, and then I told you the hard rock I listen to, and then I just listen to everything, man. Other than really a lot of country songs, like Shania Twain, she was hot, so I listen to a little bit of that at some time. But it ain't nothing crazy. And my other hobbies, man, is shoot. I like to dance, right? Dance a lot, and I join this little dance team thing that I do often.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, man, hip hop dancing. I'm not really a big talker when I go out, so I just go to the dance floor. I'm not gonna sit over here and try to talk to people because I don't really care.
Is it like a break dance crew? Is it like a step crew, like a college step crew type of?
Oh nah, bro. I didn't know fraternities or nothing. Just hip hop dance. I can break dance a little bit, but shoot, I break more than I dance when I do that, so I don't really get too crazy. I got a few moves on the ground, but I don't, I can't do like handstands, froze up stuff. I try, but I ain't got the head spin down yet. Got a little bit of windmill, but I just like to dance, man. I've always been a dancer even in college, so it's one of my hobbies. And what other hobbies do I got? Nothing really. Play video games, working out, training people, being a martial artist,
Right,
man.
And I guess dancing is kind of a bit like fighting, symbolically speaking.
Yeah, it helps. It helps with my footwork. People be like, "Oh man, you got some good footwork." I'm like, "Psh," 'cause I'm like a dancer. I be dancing. So I sort of put the rhythm. It helps. It actually does help. Like Mike Tyson said, he did some kind of something like girly and shit. But what you gonna say to Mike Tyson? He'll fucking knock you out. Like ballet or something. He did something like that. Somebody did one of them fighters. I think it was Muhammad Ali. I think it was Mike Tyson. Said he did like ballet or something for his footwork. But you ain't gonna say nothing to him. Yeah, he'll punch you in your face. You don't think ballet anymore.
And
So
a lot of wide receivers do that too.
yeah, it seems like a funny thing, but hey, if it gets you light on your feet, what you gonna do when they out there being light on their feet and you heavy? So, yeah,
Hey, Ricky,
definitely been a part of my thing.
sorry about that. Hey, Ricky, we really appreciate you coming on, man. We honestly, to be honest with you, man, we thought this was going to be a 5-10 minute thing, but you were such an awesome guest, man. You were so honest with your answers, man. We got a lot of real good material, man. We really appreciate you coming on. This is coming from me and Dima. I'm sure I can speak for Dima also. I know that you work with kids, and you've given me a little bit of grief about my Mountain Dew drinking habits. And so I know you also have some products you're sponsored by. Is there anything you want to plug before you get going?
Oh man, well, I used to do a lot of supplements and stuff like that, but recently I've been able to get on this something that's really been able to change my life in a way. And all it is basically this thing called Thrive. It's a detox. It's all in one detox, weight management, and it gives me all that energy. So not all the synthetic caffeines and things like that. It's all natural stuff. And it's just basically something pills of take pills and do a protein shake later and put a patch on and give me all my vitamins throughout the day. And I definitely feel it. I've been on it like 9 months. I want to take I used to take like 20 vitamins a day, man, be burping up powders and all that stuff. But luckily I found this, and yeah, I could basically just plug that. If anybody want to check it out, it's basically Ricky R. Rainey dot, it's level, but it's LEVEL.com. Go ahead and check it out, man. It's pretty legit stuff, and it's been a life changer. So I guess I could plug that. And my Cairo Cabarrus, man, my freaking chiropractor saved my life, boy. My hips were messed up after that Chitty fight, them kicking me in my leg, hips and stuff. I never believed in chiropractic work until I went there, and really people need to really get that stuff, because it'll take some time off, put some more time on your life just by straightening you up, and your nerves be messed up and stuff, just holding on to a lot of pressure on one side. So I advise going to the chiropractor if you can. All these things that I'm talking about, they're sort of not very cheap things, but stuff worth having ain't cheap. Organic food ain't cheap. Fucking stuff ain't cheap, man. People go out and drink their whole life away and spend it at the bar, but they won't get stuff to take care of themselves. So those are the two things that I have: Cairo Cabarrus and Thrive, man. Those two things have been helping me stay positive and get to my goals, man. So I'm grateful for those. So I'm shouting them out. There it is.
Hey, we appreciate that. So that's Thrive, and what was the other one again?
Cairo Cabarrus.
Cairo Cabarrus.
Yep, right here in Concord, just down in my area. Cairo Cabarrus.
I'm gonna have to try that Thrive myself. I know you sent me a link. I'm gonna definitely follow up on that, man. I need to start living a little bit healthier lifestyle myself.
Tell you, it's helping people lose weight, bro. It's doing weight and giving people energy.
Sorry to interrupt. Thank you for giving him shit for doing soda. I've been trying to tell him to, lay off of that stuff.
Bruh, that boy been going hard since college, man. I gotta get this boy. He been going hard, yo. I'm like, we getting older too, man. It's a lifestyle, bruh. Because we ain't gonna live much longer. People die to get diabetes and all kind of stuff, and they like 30-something years old. Like, people just fucking killing themselves. So, I'm trying to help as I can. So, listen up.
Good point. You also you have some classes in Charlotte where kids, adults, people of all ages can work out with a pro fighter, and just either get their cardio up or get some real professional level experience in there. Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, man. It's always good to have some self defense. It's over here in Gastonia, North Carolina. But it's called, you can look it up. It's called Sniper Striking Syndicate. That's what I call it. And it's just a group of people, man, all gathered for the same type of goal. I got cardio kickboxing, and I got the kids class just to show protection. Nobody really gets hit. I got classes for that if people want to get hit and become fighters and stuff. I got that too, but nobody trying to pay to get hit. People like to get in shape though. So I teach people how to, slip punches and do all kinds of stuff, block punches properly, not to flinch when punches are coming, because you don't want your eyes to be closed with somebody punching at you. So, I'm just trying to teach people the basics, man. Teach them the basics, because really the basics is what made my career. People want to go learn spinning back kicks and stuff, but really I just hit you with this jab cross and it'll change your whole life. I don't need to do a bunch of fancy stuff,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I do these classes Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. I got kids classes as well. So, all the stuff can be checked out online. Go ahead and follow me on Facebook, Ricky Rashard Rainey, YouTube, Ricky Rainey MMA. I mean, excuse me, not YouTube. Twitter, Ricky Rainey MMA, and Instagram is @1shot_RRR. So that's it.
Yeah, I remember that one time you posted a couple months back with the kids you were talking about. You posted a video of them playing tug of war against you, man. I really enjoyed that.
Bruh,
I think Dima had
them
something
boy,
to add.
they were strong, bruh.
But the kids seem to be having a lot of fun, man. That's a good thing.
And yeah, much
Oh,
to
yeah.
add. I was just gonna say thank you for coming on the show. You're an awesome interview, and we're looking forward to seeing you fight next, and we're looking forward to having you on the show again.
Yeah, always
All right, man.
cheering you on, man. You're Shoot the One's favorite fighter, man. So always looking forward to
Hey, it's what's up. It's what's up. I'll be sure to keep y'all posted, man. Once I get my stuff in order and get everything in order, I'll get back out there. But, got to take care of home plate first. Then we'll get everything else going.
that. Right on, man. Thanks a lot.
All right, fellas. Holla at me.
Thanks, Ricky. Take care, man.
All right, you too. Peace.
Welcome back, listeners. Shoot the Ones, your mixed martial arts podcast. After that interview, I'm way more excited about MMA and podcasting in general. How you feel, Rainey?
Yeah, what a cool guy, Ricky the Sniper Rainey, man. I knew him in college. And I mean, he's just a real genuine. Like you heard it in the interview with us, man. He's about as real as they get, I mean, he'll tell you stuff even if it's not pretty to say, and that's why he was such a good interview, man. But yeah, man, it was pretty cool, man. We appreciate Ricky coming on.
Yeah, Ricky was a good sport and good interview, and we're looking forward to having him on the podcast again. So moving forward, we have a really busy news week as far as recent events and some fights announced. So first and foremost, I want to discuss I guess this is the continuation of last week's news. We were talking about state of affairs of middleweight division, and we came to find out, Dana White came out and said this, that the fight between GSP and Bisping is getting scrapped.
That's correct. We've had a lot of moving pieces with this, Dima. Like you said, the fight got scrapped because GSP wasn't going to be ready in July. Then UFC, correct me if I'm wrong, UFC decided to make their play of putting Bisping and Romero together, as much as Dana White even announcing it. However, Bisping was like, wait a minute, I didn't sign anything. My knee kind of hurts. My knee's not good yet. I still want to fight GSP. Am I accurate there with my side of how I understand the story?
Yeah, basically Bisping came out and said, this is not official. I don't know anything about this. I wasn't told. As far as I know, GSP fight is still on.
Yes, and since that announcement was made, UFC has kind of rumored, I'm not sure if it's set in stone, but they want to go with Whitaker versus Romero for another interim title, which to me is a little weird because you'd think it would be Gegard versus Yoel first off. Even though Whitaker did have that super impressive win versus Jacare, seems like Gegard has done a whole lot more in that division, and probably moves the needle a little bit more if we're being fair. And yeah, there's a lot of fallout from that because Bisping is the champ after all. And another fight that might be coming out of this is the Gegard and Luke Rockhold you told me about was also rumored.
Yeah, that's being rumored, and the
good fight if it happens.
The shit show that was happening, something needed to be done. And as far as the interim title, I don't mind it in the case of the middleweight division because there is at least 5-6 guys waiting for an opportunity that paid their dues and are up there, highest of the caliber, that need to fight and are being held up by this GSP Bisping situation.
Funny thing is, I don't think Bisping would care if there was an interim champion either. I remember, I listened to his podcast here and there also, and he talks about, he's like, that's not the real champ. I mean, that's fine. They can have that little belt, but we all know who the real champ is. And something, I mean, me and you have talked about it. a little bit prior to the show, but something about Bisping that a lot of people forget was when Luke Rockhold was the champion. Bisping on 2 weeks' notice when nobody wanted to fight Big Bad Rockhold. He said, "I do. Put me in there." And now that Bisping's the champ, it's kind of entertaining that everybody's like, "Hey, I want to fight this guy. I want to fight this guy." And I mean, you got to go after the champ. I mean, Gegard's been doing it for 5 years, so you can't include him in that. And same with Luke, But a lot of these guys are coming out of the woodwork that didn't want to fight. Like Jacare, for example, didn't want to fight Luke, Big Bad Luke, when he had it, but he was ready when Bisping won the belt. Let's fight Bisping.
Yeah, and I find it a little amusing that a lot of people are overlooking Bisping at this point when, he clearly came out and, not only he took the belt in a dramatic fashion, but he always stifled people that always kind of overlooked him or underestimated him. I think his fight against Chael Sonnen, which a lot of people were going to be like, oh, Chael's going to go and demolish him, he questionably won that fight despite the decision.
Yeah, the same. He had a fight with Rashad back in the day, but kind of to your point, me and you are, one of the couple of the only analysts that really give Bisping his due, man. I hear a lot of people discredit him, and like you look at his career trajectory and what he's done, and just stepping in against guys, like he deserves his due by now, and it's kind of to the point where it's disrespectful that some people don't give it to him.
Yeah, on constant basis, he's fought the toughest opponents in front of him. He's never avoided a fight. And at this point, if he wants to fight GSP, I'm not as upset about that, considering Bisping is who he is.
Yeah, and this isn't a butt-kissing, Bisping butt-kissing podcast. But, he deserves, everybody's kind of pooping on him right now because he obviously does not want to fight Romero. I mean, can we agree on that? He does not want to fight Romero.
No.
Right? And can you blame him? I mean, he's done everything to one time be like, yeah, you know what? I'd rather make way more money than that and fight a guy not nearly as tough.
Now, unfortunately, there are losers in this situation. Obviously, Romero, now Mousasi. Rockhold is, pretty upset. Even Anderson came out and voiced a lot of disappointment. He's obviously not on the 212 card anymore. Doesn't have a fight. It's kind of upset about the situation there.
Did you hear what Dana White said to Luke Rockhold's request for an interim?
Yep, he pretty much told him, you don't deserve a shot yet. Go out there and work your ass for it.
He's kind of right. I mean, I like Luke. I think I would favor him to beat Gegard, who's one of my favorite fighters. But, I mean, he did talk all that smack and got knocked out by Bisping in round 1, And granted, that those couple shots would have knocked out a lot of guys. But still, I mean, you got to kind of back up what you're saying. He did for years. He did for many years, but... we saw the loss. It's not like something we imagined, it didn't it actually happened. And it's kind of like Rockhold is trying to ignore that,
Yeah.
and move around that. But I do think that he deserves a top contender. And I think that's his mindset. I think he's just trying to get a guy, like a name, though.
Now, enter Mousasi, a fight he advocated for. Mousasi doesn't mind this fight.
He advocated for it back when Rockhold was champion. But I'm sure Gegard's fight anybody, anytime kind of guy, so I'm sure he's all right with it now.
Gotcha. What do you think about that fight? I think that's pretty cool.
It's a tough one to call, man, because these guys are both, all-around mixed martial artists. I think Rockhold is, despite his loss to Bisping, I don't think that's the fighter that he is. I think he's more the fighter that we saw against Machida.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scary fighter, man. He can strap on submissions quick. But same with Gegard, man. He's a smart striker, doesn't get hit a lot. It's an interesting matchup, to say the least. Like I said, I would slightly favor Luke, but I think it's almost a 50-50 pick-em fight.
Right on. I kind of feel with you there. What do you think about Whitaker and our homie Romero?
Yeah, I like that fight, actually. I mean, despite me believing Gegard deserves the opportunity a little bit more, Robert, you can't deny Robert Whitaker. What's that?
Bobby Knuckles.
Bobby Knuckles, yeah. You can't deny. He hates that nickname, by the way.
I think
So
it's going to stick, though.
I don't know.
Everybody be digging it.
Yeah, but I don't know if he appreciates it too much. But I'll call him the Reaper, the Reaper Bobby. Excuse me, the Reaper Robert Whitaker.
You were about to say the Reaper
The
Bobby
Reaper
Knuckles.
Bobby Knuckles. That's right. But the Reaper Robert Whitaker, he's a really good fighter, Dima. And I mean, he showed that he opened up a lot of eyes fighting Jacare. And with that skill set, as good as Romero is, you still see potential in Robert winning the fight due to his takedown defense and precise strikes.
For sure.
So that makes it an interesting fight. And Romero's just a beast, man. He's a beast of a guy. He's one of the best wrestlers to ever compete in MMA. And I mean, this guy, he times his shots. He doesn't waste a lot of energy in there. He's an older fighter, but he's a smart older fighter with good skills, scary skills, and a lot of power.
In the past, how has Whitaker dealt with high-level elite wrestling?
He's done well. I mean, the only he's had 2 losses in the UFC, both at welterweight though. So since he's kind of like Gaslam since he's moved up to middleweight. He's been kind of doing his thing up there, man, having a lot of success. He did lose to Wonder Boy at 170 and somebody else. I'd have to check on who. Maybe Neil Magny or somebody like this.
Okay.
I don't wanna say he lost to Neil though and slander his name, but anyways, he's got two losses there. He won the Ultimate Fighter Smashes season, Australia, and you could tell he was way ahead technique wise and skill wise. I think he fought outside of his division. I think it was a 185-pound season, and he had great success, won the show. Came out, beat a bunch of guys like Devin Hester and those kind of fighters. Kind of moved up the ranks till he fought Wonder Boy, and I don't think he'd seen that kind of striking before. That caught him off guard, but if I remember correctly, that was a fairly close fight. I think he might have got knocked out though. I like I said, I'd have to check his record.
By the way, I probably would favor him in this fight against Romero. If
Really?
I had to take a pick, I would probably lean Whitaker. He's younger, fresher. The way he looked against Jacare, the way he avoided the takedown, was really impressive to me. And
Yeah, he fought the perfect fight.
and, his hands are real clean, so he doesn't make a lot of mistakes with his boxing.
Good striking, like you said, he was ready for Jacare.
Yeah.
He was ready for that game. He was ready for any kind of adversity he might be in that fight, and he's gonna have to do the same versus Yoel. The reason I think I'm gonna go with Yoel in this one is because not only because I'm a little bit bitter that Gegar's getting passed by, but Yoel's got that one hitter quitter power. I mean, despite maybe a little bit better technique on Whitaker's part, Yoel can, and I'm not just saying this because MMA math and he did it to Weidman, but he can hit you with that really explosive athletic attack at any time like he did to Weidman.
He got that old man strength.
What is he, 44, 46?
Yeah, he's
like that?
pushing it, man. Not 46, but
44.
he's in his young 40s. Let's say that.
But he's still a very dynamic athlete, and he doesn't have a lot of miles on him like a lot of the other MMA fighters. So even being older, he's not as old in fight age.
Yeah, this will be an exciting fight. But I don't want to dwell too much on fights that aren't yet official. I do want to move into the next one that has been made official.
Because just like Bisping Romero, it could be called off next week.
Yeah, unfortunately. The fight that has been made official, we have Michael Johnson versus Justin Gaethje set for a TUF 25 finale in July 7th.
Yeah, this is an awesome fight, man. Like we've talked prior episode, we've always been fans of Justin Gaethje, man. Really excited to get his opportunity. And man, they're already going back and forth, Dima. The shit talk is epic in this one. Michael Johnson's saying, you're a C-level fighter. I'm gonna welcome you to the A-League. You know what a lot of former UFC guys did when Bellator guys and Strikeforce guys came in, and they were their mouths got shut pretty quick. I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happened, but Gaethje's also, he's like, hey, man, I'm the most violent lightweight on the planet, and he's like, I'm fitting to prove that. I believe they're looking for July 7th date.
Yep, you're right. Lots of interesting things coming out of that summer kickoff conference, with all the hype and the build-up coming out of these fights, this being one of them. MJ is, clearly looking to go out there and make a statement. He feels slightly disrespected. He keeps saying, I'm not the gatekeeper, but I will gladly welcome this guy in by, beating the hell out of him, essentially.
I think it's posturing, Dima. I think he knows who Justin Gaethje is. And if you don't know Justin Gaethje, you haven't been keeping up with MMA. And you probably don't listen to our podcast.
Yeah, and he does. And he says a lot of things to try to get under his skin, like, you're coming from the C League, you're not going to be able to look as good as you did. This isn't going to be a war, in the sense that it's not going to be as competitive as you were in World Series of Fighting.
And it's kind of a fair point because despite some of Gaethje's wins, Palomino and those guys, Foster, he has not fought the same caliber opponents that Michael Johnson has. I do appreciate his skill set more than Michael Johnson's, but I don't think he's fought the same caliber guys, not even close.
Well, I appreciate both of their skill sets and the fact that both guys come to, bring it and fight. This fight is going to be really exciting for me. I'm looking forward to July. June, July is actually going to be like non-stop fighting. I think with the next fight night that we're going to preview after these news, I think there's going to be like non-stop fights for 2-3 months almost.
Oh man, that's super exciting, man. Is this one our next piece of news? We're gonna talk about some stuff that went down in the California State Athletic Commission. They passed new weight cutting regulations. Is this gonna affect this card that we're currently talking about, the Gaethje? Because that's July 7th.
I believe the rule set, the California State Athletic Commission, the weight rule changes, that's going to be implemented 2/14.
And UFC 214, that's in Anaheim, July 29th. So Gaethje, and even though they're going to be in California, they're not going to have to adhere to these rules that we're fitting to talk about, which is exciting. We talked a little bit with Ricky about it when he was on.
Yeah.
This is cool stuff, and it's important to know, especially if you're a fighter.
Definitely evolution of the sport. These things are going to change, the way things are being done from here as far as weight cutting. I think they're going to be the ones setting a standard, and it seems like they're getting a lot of support and backing from a lot of other state athletic commissions and promotional entities.
Yes, UFC, Bellator, and Invicta are all firmly behind this. I'm not sure about the other commissions because the other commissions have not, like, the way that I understand this, Dima, is this is a California-only thing until other commissions are like, hey, that's what we're going to do as well, and they have to pass it. They have to have a meeting, just like California did. They sat down, they voted on it, and it passed. And, now they're going to implement it. But that doesn't mean that these other these other commissions like New York, anywhere else besides California are going to do it.
I think a couple of them, like Nevada, California, they are really like standard setters, and a lot of commissions follow suit. If something starts working for Nevada and California, I think it's a matter of time till other commissions start to, catch up on the same thing.
Yeah, typically I don't have much respect for commissions, but I do like California's commission. I do think that they're trying to be ahead of the problem.
They are progressive,
revolutionary instead of actionary like some of these other commissions.
Yeah.
Let's go over. I pretty much have to read some of these points because they have a 10-point system, Dima. This is the key components of a 10-point plan,
and it's a lot of information, so all is good. Mm-hmm. Just go ahead and read them off.
But I'm gonna credit SureDog for this. I took it off of their site. I'm reading it from their site specifically. But the 10-point system, here's some of the points. The first one is, instead of the fighter losing 20%, if they win, they could potentially lose 40% of their purse. They're losing 20%. If they come off of weight, they miss weight, come off of weight. They miss weight, they're going to lose a percentage of their purse regardless. But if they win the fight, they're going to lose 40%.
So stiffer fines.
Stiffer fines. They're also adding a couple divisions. They're going to add 165, 175, 195, and 225-pound weight classes. And they're going to be licensed weight classes for fighters, which is a little bit weird, Dima, because it's only in California. So they're going to be kind of catchweight fights. There's not going to be a belt, anything like that.
Yeah, as far as promotions, I don't see, say, like a UFC in a big rush to implement those per se, but maybe a few years down the road in the future, when more ruling bodies accept these kind of changes, it might be viable then.
You're pretty much saying the premise of it is good. It gives guys more options so they're not cutting 30 pounds at a time. They can cut 15 and get to a desired weight class.
Yeah, I think the 195, the 225, we saw a lot of small heavyweights throughout, history of MMA. I think that the 225 would have been a perfect weight class for, say, Fedor to fight in, or Rampage at this point of his career.
It's a good point, man. 225 would have been really good, even for guys like King Mo.
Yeah.
A lot of those kind of quicker guys that can fight but don't need to be in there against a 265-pound monster.
Yeah, true.
Let's go on here. They have weight class restrictions for fighters who miss weight more than once, Dima.
Kind of in lieu with what we saw with Kevin Gastelum and Johnny Hendricks.
Yeah, UFC had kind of been doing that on their own.
Yeah,
bit, is what you're saying.
Where if you miss once, a couple times, they kind of make you move up and compete at a higher weight.
Yeah, and I guess this is gonna be California State Athletic Commission. So if Bellator goes to California, and they have a guy miss more than once, they can force them to move up also. This isn't only UFC. So that's something to take note of. Moving on, a second weight. This is interesting, Dima. A second weight check on the day of the event to ensure fighters have not gained more than 10% of their body weight back in 30 hours between the official weigh-in and the event. If a fighter gains back more than 10% of his or her body weight, they will be recommended to move up a weight class for their next bout. Interesting points and wording. Well, what does recommended mean? Does that, yeah, you can take it, you can leave it, Interesting how they worded it. That's one thing I see, Dima. But what do you think of this point?
I think this is an interesting one. However, the repercussion of it being recommended to fight at a higher weight class, if you show up heavy at the second weigh-in, I don't think that's going to make much changes unless you're going to force people to fight at a higher weight class. If this is something that happens a couple of times in a row, this isn't going to exactly change things.
Also, the implementation 30-day and 10-day weight check for advertised high-level title fights. So basically that means that they can check you, Dima. Like if you're in one of these premier main event title fights, they can come check you 30 days out. They can look at what your weight is. They can look at you 10 days out. They can periodically check on you now.
This is another big one. This would actually kind of put in some kind of a safeguard for people to make sure they don't cross over like a dangerous threshold upon losing so much weight. So as far as fighter safety, this may actually be very positive.
Yeah, and they have reasoning behind all these, and like you said, most of them are for fighter safety.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to see another Khabib situation of where somebody's organs start to slow down or not work properly as intended because of such extreme weight cuts.
Yeah. So it looks like me and you are both kind of behind this. Let's see what happens with it.
You gotta be forward thinking and progressive. MMA comes from kind of an old school mentality. Lots of boxing rules. So it's a young sport, and for it to change, and I think this is a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, and earlier Ricky was really open with us about the dangers of weight cutting and what some of these guys are out here doing. And a healthy way of doing it, like the way that he talked about doing it. And I think that this is all that is. They're ensuring that these guys are doing it in a healthy way. You remember Thiago Tavares Guys like that were cutting ridiculous, like 40 pounds. They were walking around 200 pounds in the off season and getting down to 155.
Hmm.
Like unheard of weight cuts. Like weight cuts that are very taxing to somebody's body, and not healthy.
Or things like Anthony Johnson used to put himself through,
Yeah, when he fought at welterweight.
going to 170, and you know how big of a person he is.
And another good point Ricky made is, guys are going to try to get every advantage they can. And it's these guys' job at the commission to make sure that, they're doing it in a healthy way. They're not going to end up with somebody dead in MMA.
Yeah.
That's the scariest thing for these commissions to have on their hands. If somebody dies on their hands, that's why they do all these physicals. That's why these fighters got to go through all this before they even step in the cage. Because there's a lot of liability on the line. I mean, these guys are really putting their health in danger. They're putting their lives in danger. It's a serious sport. It's not a hobby. When you're getting in there on the professional level, it's serious big money business.
Yeah, and it's the most dangerous sport too, and that's why we have a ton of respect for guys that go and put their health on the line to entertain us.
I'm not going to co-sign that it's the most dangerous. I think boxing is way more dangerous because, and I'll tell you my reason for it. I think when you're allowed to basically get knocked out, get knocked on your ass, and then fight again and do that 3 times per round, twice per round, 3 times I think they end the fight. I think your brain gets a lot more rattled. Like the thing about MMA is you get hit hard, you get cut open, but when that ref sees that you're not intelligently defending themselves, it's their job to protect you. In boxing, you're not as protected by the ref. You pretty much get your lights turned out before they call it a day.
It's really the accumulation of punches that makes it a little bit more dangerous. But you gotta also consider they wear gloves, so yeah, that's why they're able to take more punches, and ultimately makes it a little bit more dangerous. But I would put them right next to each other. You have ground game in MMA, and there's a lot of things like knee injuries and other injuries that come out of grappling in specific that boxers don't have to deal with. But yeah, as far as head trauma, boxing's more dangerous. Overall injuries, MMA, is just as if not more. But that's my opinion.
Dima, that's really interesting news, especially with the rule changes and the middleweight division. It's really an interesting time to be an MMA fan. And speaking of interesting time and MMA fan, we got a card to go over still.
Yeah, man, there's just so much news and so much exciting things to talk about. We're kind of losing track of time, but that's a good thing. So this next weekend we have UFC Fight Night 108. Teixeira versus Gustafsson, straight out of Sweden.
Correction, Fight Night 109.
108, I call it?
Yeah.
Okay, 109.
You knew which one it was. I think you just misnumbered it.
You're right. 109, yes. It's there's so many different like series. There's the Fight Night, there is the UFC on Fox that has its own numbers. There's the UFC pay-per-view cards.
Well, to be fair, you just reminded me what it was, and then you got it wrong.
So really, I should know better. But anyways, it's an exciting card. We got a couple of fights on here that we're particularly excited to talk about. Do you want to talk top to bottom here?
Yeah, so some sleepers. Before we get started, man, a couple pullouts that I'm disappointed about. The Christian Colombo Damian Grabowski fight was scrapped entirely. Marbek Sumanov has been replaced by Reza Madadi, and Emil Weber-Meek was also replaced by newcomer Oliveira in Camp, Swedish product.
Okay, yeah, that's unfortunate. Also, Magnus Kallenblad and Chris Camozzi was on this card as well, but unfortunately Kallenblad was not able to compete. He got removed from the card and is now replaced by Trevor Smith.
Yeah, so a lot of guys that I was really looking forward to seeing on this card are gone, but still an exciting card, and a lot of them, main card wasn't really affected by those pullouts.
Yep, main card remains intact for the most part. So Alexander Gustafsson and Glover Teixeira in a fight that feels like we saw before, but we didn't. These two never actually fought each other. We just saw that they had a lot of similar opponents, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, a lot of similar opponents, and they're both top five. It's not even arguable. They're both top five light heavyweights.
Even though like 2 and 3.
Yeah, so this is a good fight. It's a meaningful fight. Um, I don't have a lot to add. I think Gustafson's length and style is really going to bother Glover. I haven't been too impressed with Glover's recent performances over Jared Cannonier, but Glover's always a dangerous opponent. Great hands, great jiu-jitsu, good overall game, but I think Gus is going to be a really tough out for him, Dima.
Yeah, Gustafsson has been back for a while now, and I feel like as he's getting more active again, he's improving. So going forward in this fight, I think he poses a couple of really unique challenges for Glover. That being his range. He's a really tall and lanky fighter, so that's something that Glover is gonna have to work really hard at closing the distance in order to land and make it the dirty fight that Glover wants to make it.
Good points. So I imagine we're starting top to bottom, and
Yes, sir.
that's fine. I forgot what I was gonna add on this one. There was something I wanted to add, but oh yeah, I wanted to. I'm gonna start over. Yeah, Dima, you make great points there. The betting line on that one, just kind of like we said, we're both kind of favoring Gustafson, and so does the betting site, Bovada. They have Alexander Gustafson at -265 and Glover at +205. So moderate favorite.
I would say that's about right. Yeah, Glover had a tough time against in his last couple fights. He got beat pretty bad, and he had a good rebound fight with Cannonier.
Yeah, good points. I've noticed something. Glover kind of he has a lot more success than Alexander against guys that he should beat. But when it's come to fighting the elite guys, Gustafson's the one that's had some success in there. I mean, barring his loss to Phil Davis. Glover's also had a little success against some of the top guys like Bader and stuff like that. But he hasn't looked as impressive in some of his losses at light heavyweight, and I just think he's shown a lot more holes in his game than Alexander Gustafsson.
So this is pretty safe to say this would probably set up the next contenders fight, if not Jimmy Manoa, who's somewhere in the picture as well, for the outcome of DC and Jones, which was also announced in the summer kickoff that we talked about.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be some other moving pieces as well, but they're not the only contenders. Like Manoa's still there. Anthony Johnson left the division, but you still got DC and Jones to fight. And I mean, there's some other contenders in there, light heavyweight, like Serkinov. But yeah, I think these guys are a good step ahead of the Serkinovs and those guys, as the fight card order, shows us.
Yep, and speaking of Serkinov, he's co-main event against the traveling fighter, our cousin, Volkan Mesdemir.
Yes, always nice to see the cousin. But on a serious note, this is a good fight, Nima. Vulcan had a, arguable but impressive split decision win over OSP last time out. And Serkinov's just a good prospect, man. He's not the best guy standing, but he's kind of like Antagulov in the sense like he knows what he's in there to do, and he's in there to drag you down and use his superior jiu-jitsu against you. But I mean, his strikes are also, he's a powerful guy, Dima, so his strikes hurt.
Right on. This matchup makes sense. Ozdemir came off against a good performance against OSP, and Misha Serkinov, fortunately came to terms with UFC, re-signed. He's back competing for the organization, and he's needed there. because light heavyweight division needs more prospects. So this fight, this is good. This is
I
good.
think it's his second fight back since resigning. I'm not positive who he's fought prior, but he did have a fight pretty recent. Are you checking that out right now?
I will pull it up and tell you. Since Nikita Krylov, he has not had a fight.
Oh, that's right. He beat Nikita, and then you're right. So I'm actually incorrect there. The betting line on that one, Dima, is Misha Serkinov's at -365 and Volkan at +275. So that's a sizable favorite, Misha Serkinov is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. A lot of people underestimate Volkan, and for them to do it second time in a row in such a manner, and when he upset OSP, I think the line should be a little bit closer. I would favor Misha, but not by such big margin.
Yeah, I'm taking Misha to win this one as well, Dima. The thing though about it is, like you said, Volkan Ozdemir, he's a good athlete. He's a good fighter. He throws dangerous strikes. He's a smart fighter. I think this line is a little bit credited to Misha Serkinov's kind of scary. He's a scary talent, When he gets a hold of you, it might not be long till he chokes you out, And like I said, he hits hard. He throws everything with a lot of bad intentions. He's in there to hurt his opponent, and I think the betting line kind of took that into account, that he's more of a finisher than Volkan.
Yeah, I don't think the cousin is going to be too intimidated by Misha. So that's why I was saying it's going to be a good fight.
I like it. Yeah, traveling cousin.
Yep.
Versus Misha Serkinov, Canadian fighter.
Very interesting. Good fight for light heavyweight. Next up in welterweight division, Peter Sabata versus Ben Saunders.
Killer B. I like this fight. Both of these guys are veterans. I'm a little bit surprised it's getting a main card slot over some of these fights, but it's a good fight. Ben Saunders has really made a name for himself. He's a good trainer. He brings it every time. He's got a real dynamic skill set, good kicking, good punching, really good jiu-jitsu. Peter Sabata, I don't know as much about. I know he's a grinder, and I know he's had a lot of wars in the UFC and come through as an underdog many times. They haven't come out with a betting line on this one yet, but I'm ventured to guess that Killer B is going to be the favorite, and I'm going to probably lean towards him winning.
Yeah, probably. I wanted to say Sabata is coming off of a submission victory. I forget over who, but back in December of 16. But yeah, I agree with you. Ben Saunders' quality of opponents has been a little bit higher. So, like the lines would say, I would lean towards Ben Saunders as well. Do you have anything more for this fight, or you want to move on to
No,
the
man,
next?
I'm just juiced about the next fight, and you should be also. Because, this is a judo guy coming in, a black belt judo player, knocked out one of Connor's teammates, 52 seconds. Like, I don't know too many guys that I'm as excited to see their follow-up performance as Abdul Razak Al Hassan. And he's going against, a master of sport in combat sambo, a second dan black belt. So these guys, they're both high-ranking guys. And that's in Omari Akhmadov, Russian fighter. And, we get excited about any Russian fighter, and he's going against such a badass judo player. What a war, man. What do you think about this? You're the judo expert on the show. Now you got a judo guy going against a Russian sambo player. This must be a treat for you.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about this fight. The way Sambo breaks down with judo is essentially they're very similar. The grappling base of Sambo comes from judo. But Sambo does mix things up a little bit more. There's more striking. There's a lot more time for ground game. So going off of that, I think Sambo is a more complete skill set than judo when it comes to MMA. So I would have to tip my hat off to Omari, aside from the Russian bias. But I like both fighters here.
Yeah, and another interesting point to this fight, Abdul Razak Al Hassan, He is a judo player, Dima.
But he does have striking. Like
But
he knocked out.
all of his wins, he's 7-0. Every win has been by knockout punch in under a minute 26. This guy's really scary, and he's facing a really good opponent.
So
this
you know
time.
he's got some hands too.
Yeah, he hasn't. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's using his judo in there too, but he's knocking guys out in there.
It's very interesting. I haven't seen him fight, but what you bring up, like he knocked out Connor's teammate, you said?
52 seconds. Yep, that was his UFC debut.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, the guy
over anyone.
The guy was really green fighter though, nowhere near Omari. Like this is gonna be a real test for him. Like the guy he fought. Well, I mean, I'm sure you're gonna rewatch it before the event this weekend and before you place your actual bet. But you know, he definitely outmatched Connor's teammate there, and you know that guy didn't have the same skills Akhmadev has.
So you're saying don't overlook him, and this fight is going to be a lot closer than it is on paper.
I think the betting line's going to be pretty close. I think it's going to be a pretty close bet. I don't think they've come out with a betting line yet, but if I were to venture to guess,
Yeah, only main and co-main so far.
I think they're probably going to have Abdul Razak Al Hassan as a slight favorite over Akhmadov, and that's probably just because of his great success with all the knockouts in his fights and having a little bit more hype behind him.
Interesting. So maybe some value behind Omari there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna lean towards Abdul Razak Al Hassan using his judo and being a really strong guy in there. I think I'm gonna lean. I hate picking against Russian guys, man. It sucks, but I think he wins here. Hopefully, I'm wrong.
Off the top, I have to do a little bit more research on Omari's opponent here, but I will lean towards Omari for now, based on Sambo being a little bit more well-rounded skill set that a lot of people have a lot of success with going into MMA.
Yeah, and this is gonna be well, I'm probably getting a little repetitive, but it's also you might have a point because this is gonna be by far his toughest challenge of his career.
Yep. So I'm excited about this fight. Looks really good. Next up, we got, also in the welterweight division, Oliver Enkamp versus Nordin Taleb.
I don't know a lot about Enkamp. I know that he stepped up to take this fight. He's going to be fighting in his native Sweden, and he's 7-0. Taleb is a really impressive fighter. I believe he lost his last one out in a slim decision that went Santiago Ponzinibbio's way, who's also a really good fighter. Tough one to call considering probably neither one of us know Enkamp that well.
Yeah, he's a late minute replacement. Yeah.
Kind of like Rashard Coulter, though. I've seen like his strength of opposition is not that impressive. While Nordin Taleb has been in there with a lot of great guys, training in the best gym up there, TriStar. One of the best gyms, excuse me. I don't want to shit on other gyms, but easily one of the best gyms. And
best gym in Canada.
Yeah, and I think that more than likely Oliver Enkamp's going to have to bring a hell of a game to get his 8th victory.
Good point.
Speaking of Swedish fighters, Jack Hermansson, who's been pretty successful in the UFC so far, 2-0 in the UFC, is facing always tough Alex Nicholson, the Spartan Nicholson.
Yeah, this fight is going to be interesting. What can you tell me anything about Jack Hermansson?
2 strikers. Yeah, Hermansson's big prospect, nicknamed the Joker, young guy, age 28. Real impressive MMA records, 14 wins, 2 losses. And he's a finisher, man. He's got 11 finishes to only 3 decisions. He kind of wears on you with his striking. He doesn't throw those huge bombs, but he throws technical shots. And he beats you on his, being able to outwork you over 3 rounds. And Alex Nicholson's also a striker. And Alex Nicholson's a little bit more of a in-your-face, nasty striker, throwing techniques to get you out of there.
So safe to say it's going to be a kickboxing match.
I think it's going to be contested on the feet a lot, and I favor Hermansson pretty favorably, probably 4-1.
Okay. Any clear advantages like reach or any of that thing?
They're both really lanky guys. I think Hermanson's a little bit taller. Alex Nicholson doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so I can't see his height.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking all these questions. I don't know much about the opponent here, Alex Nicholson.
That's what's his name? Mike Perry's main training partner and teammate.
Oh, okay. So he's gonna bring a little platinum flavor.
Yeah, Dima. Alex Nicholson. If you remember, he made his UFC debut against Misha Serkinov, which he fought with a broken jaw, if you remember, and he got put in that real nasty neck crank, which re-broke his jaw. Like his jaw was wired shut prior to the fight. It was a pretty nasty submission that Alex Nicholson verbally tapped to. But he got a knockout punch against a real, up-and-comer in Devin Clark, a big prospect, a much bigger prospect than himself. So he's beat a prospect as big as Hermansson in his career in Devin Clark. But then in his next performance, his next time out, he lost a pretty clear unanimous decision to Sam Alvey, who had a lot more power in his strikes. I think similar looking to what this fight might look like.
Interesting. So we have a couple more exciting fights on the preliminary card on the Fox Sports 1. Pedro Munoz, Damian Stasiak. We have a return of Chris Camozzi, Trevor Smith, Raza Madadi versus Joaquim Silva, as well as Nico Mosake versus Bojan. Oh boy,
You butchered a bunch of
Bojan Vilikovic.
Yeah, interesting fights. Stasiak, Damian Stasiak, Pedro Munoz at bantamweight. That's a really exciting fight. Pedro Munoz has looked good in that division. I'm gonna kind of fly through these, Dima. Trevor Smith, Chris Camozzi. That's an interesting fight. Both guys kind of more on the losing side of things lately. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, kind of a redemption fight.
And Joaquim Silva, that's kind of a big prospect, man. He came into the UFC undefeated. I don't think he fought somebody with a huge name in his first fight, but I think he got him out of there in like 13 seconds. Let me double check who it was.
Andrew Hallbrook?
Yep, Hallbrook. He got him out in like 13 seconds.
It was half a minute, but yeah, still very impressive.
Yeah, okay, maybe I'm embellishing a little bit. But, and Hallbrook's a good fighter. He's not that bad. He was originally going to fight Mairbek Tsumanov, who's one of my favorite fighters, a good up-and-comer.
And would have been a tougher opponent for him.
Way tougher.
I think.
To perpetually tough Reza Madadi now, which is still an interesting fight because Reza, he's tough. He's got that wrestling base, but he's more known now for taking ass kickings.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is gonna be much. Like I don't know why they don't throw him, like a piece of cake here and there instead of I guess because they don't really give a shit about Reza. I kind of answer my own question there, but they're throwing him these beasts, these up and comers nobody knows about that are actually nasty fighters.
I mean, Reza's no slouch. He choked out Michael Johnson.
And he's tough as hell. Like this, for example, he stepped up to face this undefeated guy, so he's willing to step in there and be a badass when he's not stealing purses and sitting in prison.
Oh man, so I wouldn't count him out, but this Joaquim Silva he's like 9-0 or 10-0, and he's been looking really impressive coming in. So this fight is gonna be something to look out for too.
I agree. And with the last fight, we had Nico Musaki makes his return after he's been out for a little while. January 2015 was his last fight. He fought Tumanev, who also got a victory this weekend. Kind of side note, I think he beat some guy in 54 seconds. Guy with 17-7 record. So we'd have to look into that a little bit after the show. But actually, no, Tumanev's right here. So I can just poop. Mixed martial arts record. He beat Ismael de Jesus at Birkut on the 20th. So what's today?
It's oh my god. I don't know what it is.
No, today's the 21st. So yesterday.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, he beat him, knocked him out in Berkut pretty quickly there. And that was Nico Musaki's last fight in 2015. Impressive victory over Yakovlev and lost to Gaslam while beating Andrade and Sakura. Pretty decent UFC career before falling on a couple hard times. And Boyan Velchevich. Boyan's a good fighter, and this is a pretty close fight. It's tough to call.
Right on. Let's competitive. He's coming off of a split decision loss against Sultan Aliyev, but he was able to put together a winning streak of 5 before that. Also a draw. He's got a bit with Michael Graves there in July of last year.
I remember that fight with Sultan. The Sambo game was the big difference in that one, Dima. Bohan wasn't ready for the elite Sambo game of that opponent.
Yeah. Couple more fights on the preliminary card. This is going to be Fight Pass. There's Darren Till versus Jason Ayari, and also Marcin Held versus Damir Yadzovic.
Honestly, I think these two fights are better than anything on the preliminary card, Dima. I know Jason Ayari's got a good record, impressive guy. I'm gonna have to look more into him. Darren Till is undefeated. Darren Till is a really good fighter. And Marcin Held, the first fight of the card. That's interesting. But he's kind of getting a chance here. He's had a rough run in the UFC. Despite being able to show some of his skills, he's been losing. But he's a skilled guy. And Damir Hadzovic is lesser known guy, but this guy's got power in his hands, and he's also a really good fighter.
Yeah, all good competitive fights. Kind of in line with all of the international cards. You have a lot of talent from all over the world, kind of. Well, in this case, a lot of European talent coming together on this card. Not the most well-known names, but I can almost guarantee you guys there's going to be a lot of exciting action. These guys are just coming up in the game. They're looking to make their names. So I'm expecting a lot of exciting, firework outcomes here.
Yeah, I'll go early because I know I'll get shit for saying that I predicted something right without putting it on record. So I'll go ahead and put it on record early. I'm going to go ahead and take Till and Held in these.
I'd stay away. I don't know much about both guys. I tend to play it a little bit on the safer side. When I don't, have all my research at hand, I don't make a prediction.
Yeah, and that's a good point.
Yeah.
Dima. I'm definitely gonna watch in a couple of Jason Ayari's fights before actually placing anything.
So this is Sunday. We still have a week before these fights happen. Will be interesting to watch the weigh-ins, learn a little bit more about these fighters and the history of them, and we're going to be excited to talk about the results of this card on our next show. So
yeah, and as a long-time gambler, and I know we've talked about this in the past. The betting line makes a difference in who you think's gonna win. So when they come out with a concrete initial betting line, it's usually when both of us will, pick our winners.
yeah, it's very interesting to see what the because initially when lines come out, it's
what they think.
it's what the house thinks, right?
Yes.
And then over time, as you
people
have
move that.
the people start moving that line as the bets start coming in. Usually the house has a pretty decent initial kind of like a reaction to the announced fight.
Yeah, they got a good history of being pretty accurate.
So all in all, it's going to be interesting. So good fight coming up good fight card coming up in Fight Night 109. Got it right this time. We're gonna wrap up the 16th edition of Shoot the Ones podcast. Thank you to Ricky Rainey. We were really excited to have our first call-in guest interview. So he was a really good sport. We're looking forward to doing more interviews and bringing you more guests. And yeah, guys, we're looking forward to constantly improving this thing and making it better. Our platforms, you can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, MMApodcast.com. Pretty nifty website. iTunes and Stitcher.
Yeah, man, it's been real awesome. It was real good getting a guest, especially somebody that was so open, about the fight game, and got to let you listeners, inside to his life and the fight game in general. How a fighter thinks about these things, and get to know Ricky and hopefully become a fan of the Sniper. Also, just along with the lines that you said, man, this podcast thing has been fun, man. We've gotten a lot of good reactions from people, a lot of support along the way, and it takes a little bit of work, but this is kind of fun too.
Yeah, as far as becoming a fan of Ricky, after this interview, after seeing some of his personality and getting to hear some of his opinions and his answers, I feel like I've become more a fan, and I will be excited to watch him fight or see him fight next.
Definitely going to catch his next fight, man. Not announced yet, so, we're not breaking any news here. But definitely going to be keeping a lookout for that, man. And all his fights are exciting, especially with a striking style that he has. It's very unique. Like he said, he wants to kind of make it his own. But, just kind of ending the show, man. It's been a real good episode 16, something we both feel real good about. Check us out on any platform that you find, suitable for yourself. And we appreciate all the feedback. Keep bringing it. Keep letting us know what we might, need to improve on and what we're doing good.
Yeah, again, thanks, guys, for joining us again this week for episode 16 of Shoot the Ones podcast. Catch us next week, and
Dimangenya out.